Dennis Heisey, El Paso County Representative. And to my left,
Mark Snyder, Mayor, Manitou Springs, and for first Vice Chair.
Good morning, Rob McDonald, PPACG. Quick note, all the bags in front of the board members. This is our annual staff thank you to the board. All homemade cookies. I didn't see any store-bought ones in the group this year. Really, thank you for all you've done this year for all the folks of the region, but certainly with staff and all your approvals and getting through all these meetings in 3 hours or less. You already approved your budget, so it can't be considered a bribe. Enjoy the cookies, and if you need recipes, let me know. They're all pretty good.
These are all $50 and less, right?
$1.50.
Mark Twelby, Park County Commissioner, bike path salesman, and deer in the headlight today.
I'm Rod Chisholm. I'm the Deputy Garrison Commander at Fort Carson.
Darrell Glenn, El Paso County Commissioner.
Keith McCafferty, Mayor, Town of Raymond.
Travis Easton, Mayor Monument, and thank you, Rob, and your staff for the generous gift baskets. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Rob. And Don Knight, Colorado Springs City Council.
Jim Nall, Public Transportation Representative.
Wayne Williams, El Paso County Clerk and Recorder, and again, thanks for the gifts again.
Yes.
I'm Rich Birchfield from the 21st Space Wing, representing Colonel John Shaw, who's our wing commander.
Tom Rona, CDOT Region 2 Director.
Jill Gabler, Colorado Springs City Council.
Dave Turley, Mayor of Woodland Park.
Good morning, Norm Steen, Teller County Commissioner.
Sharon Hudson, Fountain City Council.
welcome Sharon, brand new.
Yes.
to not just us, but to the Fountain City Council.
Drank the Kool-Aid, huh?
Tyler Stevens, Green Mountain Falls, and Treasurer.
Andy Pico, Colorado Springs City Council.
And back to the PPACG table.
Jacqueline Pewitt, PPACG.
Rich Muzzy, Environmental Program Manager, PPACG.
Beverly Noyeski, Finance Director.
Jason Wilkinson, Policy and Communications. Craig Casper, Transportation Director.
And whoever's first there in the audience.
Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC.
Sharon Brown, former Fountain City Council.
Mark Imhoff, CDOT Division of Transit and Rail.
Mike Timlin, CDOT Division of Transit and Rail.
Good morning, Wendy Pettit, CDOT Region 2 Planning.
Michael Snow, CDOT Division of Transportation Development.
Tom Casuara, Town of Monument,
Richard Marcus, City of Colorado Springs, non-metro transit.
Craig Blewett, City of Colorado Springs, Mountain Metro Transit.
Kathleen Krager, City of Colorado Springs Traffic Engineer.
Doug Lawler, CDOT Region 2.
Lisa Streisfeld, CDOT Region 2 Environmental. Erica Whitcomb, PPACG.
Ryan Tooley, PPACG.
Lisa Bachman, Bachman PR.
Dave Watt, CDOT Region 2.
Emily Lizzie, PPACG. Ed Ellis, over T Senior Services.
Jeff Bond, 21st Space Wing, Chief of Community Relations.
Did we get everybody? Guy, you joined us late.
Guy Dutra-Silvera, Area Agency on Aging. Good morning.
Thank you. Welcome. Glad you're all here. Item number 2 is our agenda approval. 4E on the consent items. That meeting is scheduled but has not taken place, so we should probably not try to approve something that isn't done. So if any motion for agenda approval would delete that, I would appreciate it.
Move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is public comment. We're going to start with some fun stuff. Resolution of appreciation for Sharon Brown. Sharon, if you'd like to come up. And I'm going to read this. You can stay right there by the mic. That way you have rebuttal if you
Okay.
feel like you need it.
Thank you, Dennis.
Resolution by the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board of Directors acknowledging appreciation to the City of Fountain City Council member Sharon Brown. Whereas the City of Fountain is a member government of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, and whereas the City of Fountain has representatives serving on the various committees of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, And whereas Sharon Brown, as council member, has served and represented the City of Fountain on the Board of Directors of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments since 2007. And whereas Councilmember Sharon Brown has served the residents of the City of Fountain in the Pikes Peak region with distinction. And whereas the November 13, 2013 Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board Director meeting was her final meeting as a member. Now be it therefore resolved that the Board of Directors wishes to acknowledge its deepest gratitude to the City of Fountain Council Member Sharon Brown for her commitment to regional planning and collaboration and for her dedication to the advancement of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. Resolved, approved, and adopted by the Board of Directors of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments this 11th day of December 2013 at Colorado Springs, Colorado. Dennis Heisey, Chair, attested to by Sally Clark, Secretary.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
So, Sharon, you've been here more than any other Fountain representative for these last 8 years. So,
That's probably right. You're probably right on that one. But I think you'll be represented very well by Sharon Thompson. She, like myself, will serve as an alternate because I think they appointed the mayor again as the representative. So we'll simply, I'm sure she'll do a really good job to follow. Good first name, so we'll go with that.
We'll always be able to say Sharon's done well. Is that what?
Yeah,
what you're saying?
that'll work out. Yeah.
Comments?
So.
Mayor.
Well, I just want to say, Sharon, it's been a real pleasure working with you. You've been a great asset here on this board and so many other efforts. I think you and I have a lot of history. You've replaced me on the Board of Health and then also on the Regional Building Commission.
Right.
And have done just a fabulous job. And one of the things that sustains me is the idea that someday I'll be sitting out there taking pot shots at our elected. I would encourage you to consider that as a
yes,
as a hobby anyway.
Well, it's been fun following. I've followed Mark on several of these different boards, and that has been that's really been fun. Plus, you kind of led the way, so I could kind of smooth the way for me. I appreciate that a lot, Mark. Thank you.
I did
very
my
much.
best to keep it down so that you could,
I could come. Yes,
so.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Clerk and Recorder Williams.
Sharon, I wanted to say thanks for your service and recognizing that we've been on this board together for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one thing for individuals who have really full-time government positions to be here. It is a significantly larger sacrifice for individuals who really serve in a pure volunteer capacity and to give up their time to be here. And I appreciate your dedication, your willingness to do that, and to be that alternate who is actually here.
Thank you.
Because it is critical. It is critical. There are significant transportation projects and impacts with Fort Carson and others that have been important for the City of Fountain, and your presence here and your efforts there have been important to that. So thank you for your dedication and your service.
Thank you. And I would like to say, just simply representing myself, but also Michigan Fountain, the support that we got on the expansion of Highway 16, Mesa Ridge Parkway, I mean, everybody in the region came beside us for that. And then the real battle was with the Fountain Regional Sanitation, the Harold Thompson Regional Sanitation District. And that was a battle, but we got it through. And I really have to thank PPACG for that. I really do. Let's just say that one was interesting. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, Sharon.
Oh,
we do.
Yes,
Commissioner
definitely.
Glenn.
Can't let you get away, and I just
thanks, Daryl.
It's been a pleasure working with you for such a long time and swapping war stories between different boards and our various council stories that we've been able to share, and it's been a pleasure. I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay.
Anyone else? Dr. Null.
I wasn't going to say anything because I may have been working here longer than 10 of you. But it never ceases to amaze me the wisdom that comes from small towns in this group, small
Thank you.
cities. And it's probably the greatest thing that could happen to this body over the years, to have people from small communities who've been there, done that. The tire meets the road there. And they're particularly wise, I think, as you were. We're going to miss you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Noel. Appreciate that very much.
Anyone
Okay.
else? Well, Sharon, this certificate only has one signature on it because
Sally is out.
Sally is trying to land in snowy Washington, D.C. right now. Rob?
Oh,
This
wow.
doesn't need a signature.
No. Oh, it's
A
beautiful.
small token to remember the regional table that you sat around for such a long time.
This is beautiful. Thank you.
Now, we can move. Once we get to this point, the person with the camera is in charge. Okay, let me...
There we go. And once more.
Thank you.
We have another resolution based on the same election.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
did we vote on the resolution?
You know, it's under public comment, so I wasn't really thinking that we were going to vote on the resolution. Would you like to make a motion?
I would be delighted to move approval.
Did I hear a second? Yes. Several, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Sharon. We have another person leaving the board due to the same election, and it is Mayor Jerry Howells. I don't see her here. Mark and I had talked about splitting these up, and I thought it'd be appropriate to have the mayor do a mayor. Do we want to read this into the record and take a vote?
I think we should. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Whereas the City of Fountain is a member government of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, and whereas the City of Fountain has representatives serving on the various committees of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, and whereas Jerry Howells, as mayor, has served and represented the City of Fountain on the Board of Directors of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments since 2005, and whereas Mayor Jerry Howells has served the residents of the City of Fountain and the Pikes Peak region with distinction, and whereas the November 13, 2013 Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board of Directors meetings was her final meeting as a member, now be it therefore resolved that the Board of Directors wishes to acknowledge its deepest gratitude to the City of Fountain Mayor Jerry Howells for her commitment to regional planning and collaboration and for her dedication to the advancement of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. Resolved and approved and adopted by the Board of Directors of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments this 11th day of December 2013 at Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Once again, it passes unanimously. Thank you. And Rob, we'll put it in your capable hands to...
We'll get them signed and delivered.
Thank you. Public comment, item C, 2040 Regional Transportation Plan Goals and Performance Measures and Small Area Forecast. Who is presenting that?
Opportunity for public comment.
Okay. Yes, Jim.
Good morning. I just wanted to, we did not have a CAC meeting of the month of November. It fell on the day before Thanksgiving, and our December meeting falls on Christmas Day, so we combined them. So we felt like the members needed to be with their other family versus a PPACG family. So, but we look forward to getting back with you in January. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Jim. Any other items, comments, anything you'd like to bring before this board that is not on the agenda? Mayor Snyder.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Do you qualify
Heisey.
as public?
Well, I have just a kind of a outlier item here. I just wanted to recognize our planning director, Dan Folk, who served very capably on boards and commissions here. He was on the TAC. I think he might even have chaired that at one time. But Dan left Manitou Springs to become the planning director of Flagstaff, Arizona, which is quite a jump up from a town of 5,000 to a town of 77,000 and a department approaching 30 people he'll be managing there. So, but just a lesson to the wise, when you give people proper compensation and hire talented and ambitious people, you run the risk of having them poached by other communities, and that's what happened to us. But he was a wonderful planning director for 7 years and a really great contributor to our regional efforts here. So I just wanted to recognize him. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Moving to the consent calendar, we have A, B, C, and D. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion, no. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Committee reports. Transportation Advisory Committee, or TAC. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Our meeting was fairly short. I think the chair is learning to make things a little quicker, unlike I do at Monument Town Hall board meetings.
How do we get these people poached again?
Make me an offer, Mark. At our TAC meeting, we had a couple of appointment recommendations, and then we had tip amendment number 11, which is on your agenda today, which is to add 5 projects to the tip that were approved through the RAMP program. We also had a presentation on the Interregional Express Bus Plan, which you will have today. It was very informative, and I think you'll hear a lot of good things. I think this is a good program that hopefully will be in place by the end of next year. And we will have various stops along the way up to Denver and back. So it looks like a very good substitute for FREX, which was also a good program. In the PPACG staff report, we heard that PPACG held 4 open houses on the Regional Non-Motorized Transportation System Plan. And there was a focus group on the 2040 RTP goals and performance measures. And there was a little discussion on the freight network, which is an ongoing study. Next meeting is on the 19th of December, so it's not at Christmas, so we will meet. Hopefully that'll be a short meeting, too. So that's about it. If you have any questions?
Seeing none. Thanks, Tom. B would be our Arkansas Fountain Coalition Urban River Evaluation, AFCURE, for our military representatives who are used to your own set of acronyms. We have a new set for you to learn.
I'm trying to compete with the military in the acronym game, yes. AFCURE stands for Arkansas Fountain Coalition of Urban River Evaluation. It is composed of 11 wastewater discharge entities. 9 of them are in El Paso County, and 2 of them are in Pueblo County. At the November 5th and December 2nd meetings, we went ahead and had a presentation by the Colorado Data Sharing Network. They're the statewide water quality database, and the information from the water quality monitoring stations is being entered into that database. And we got a presentation on all the bells and whistles, and that can be used to go ahead and format data and the actual template that the data will be entered into. Discuss the AFCURE next steps. It's a white paper that talks about the regulations and policies and how we're going to go ahead and address those in the upcoming years. And then third item I wanted to highlight is the non-point source discharge elimination system permits that the dischargers are required. And we talked a little bit about better coordinating those permits and taking a look at the standards that each of those entities will have to meet and how it might affect each of the entities. With that, are there any questions?
Questions? Comments? Thanks, Rich.
Thanks.
Item C would be our Mobility Coordinating Committee. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Angel Bond. I'm filling in for Gail Nels today. I'm the new Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Mobility Manager. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself. We did have, due to the holidays, we did move around a couple of our MCC meetings. In November, we actually held the meeting on November 13th, and then we just held one December 9th. So basically, the first point is that we've been working on grants coordination. The Region 2 basically got together for the open door providers and submitted a joint application for or at least a joint cover letter for FASTER funds for open door providers. So there were 4 different open door providers in Region 2 that actually collaborated and prioritized projects. Also, we discussed things, issues associated with veterans transportation issues. I have attended the Veterans Transportation Task Force meeting up at CDOT, and one of the issues that we've kind of been addressing is the gap for specifically veterans transportation. And so because of that, you'll see on your agenda that Robert Samora, the Disabled American Veterans representative, we're asking that he be added to the MCC board, just to kind of represent those veterans issues. Item number 3 is route match. We're basically the VTCLI grant that we went out for call for projects. They basically decided that they're going to go with route match, and so hopefully the providers, the specialized transit providers, they're moving forward on that. And we're looking at a quick timeline because hopefully we'd like to have that up and going by March, by the end of March, or beginning of March, I'm sorry. Other than that, if you have any questions, that's pretty much all we discussed.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Item number 6 would be our action items. Brian Vitulli with a Transportation Improvement Program Amendment, number 11.
Good morning. Thank you. Brian Vitulli with PPACG's Transportation Program. We're asking for approval of Amendment number 11 to the 2013-2018 Transportation Improvement Program. CDOT requested one action to add 5 new projects awarded funding through the Responsible Acceleration of Maintenance and Partnerships Program. That's the RAMP program. The first project is the I-25 Cimarron Interchange reconstruction for $24 million.
And we're going to get our signs, right? Park County, Teller County?
Exactly.
Very expensive signs.
Just want to make sure the signs are in there. The coverage, you know?
Sure. The second project is the I-25 Fillmore Diverging Diamond Interchange for $11 million. The US 24 Business Route Devolution Project for $2.6 million. The State Highway 21 Powers Boulevard Old Ranch Road Interchange completion for $600,000. And the US 24 Judge Orr Road intersection improvement for $2 million. Details for this request can be seen in attachments 1 and 2. The proposed tip table, as we're sending you today, is seen in attachment 3, and the draft resolution of approval is in attachment 4. The TAC addressed this and recommended approval at their November meeting, and as Mr. Godfrey said, the CAC did not meet in November, so they did not address this, but PPACG staff also recommends approval. Are there any other questions?
Questions for Brian? Clerk and Recorder Williams.
Not so much a question for Brian as a question for Tom. Can we get from you the timeline of when we anticipate, when you anticipate these projects will be worked on? I mean, I see the year-by-year allocation, which gives us some idea. But as we begin to have questions from constituents of when do you anticipate the construction beginning on these different projects?
Wayne, we're currently working on the scope, schedule, and budget for these projects. So, I don't want to give you
so in the next
some sort of an idea at this point. I'd like to have some better information that I could share with you. Perhaps at I don't know. I could probably give you an update at the next the next board meeting and give you a general time frame for these projects.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Gruen.
Clerk Williams, I would just comment that Tom and his colleagues are under a tremendous amount of pressure from my colleagues and me to get these projects out the door. And I say this in all seriousness. This is a tremendous challenge for CDOT to ramp up, and that's not a pun, to just gear up this many projects. So Tom and his colleagues really have a huge task ahead figuring out how to get all this stuff done. And he's going to have pressure on pretty much a daily basis to do it. So as soon as that information is known, we'll try to get it out.
I appreciate that. I wasn't anticipating he would know instantly, but as we go forward, it is, as you point out, one of those important things that the Transportation Commission, STAC, this group, and everyone else says, okay, we've got the money. Why aren't they done yet now, is the next question from people. And it takes time, and there's right-of-way and some design issues and other things, and so recognizing that, we want to be able to let people know realistically what that plan is, as opposed to promising that the Park County Express will be done next week, which it won't be.
Well, the executive director and the commission is serious about getting this stuff done within 5 years. So that's the intent.
Oh, we'll be way ahead of that, Les.
All right.
I can give you some ballpark numbers or dates as well. I mean, the Cimarron should probably will be under construction probably late calendar year 15.
Okay.
But certainly in calendar year 16. The Fillmore Interchange project, we're hoping that we'll start construction calendar year 14. That would be likely late summer to fall. Don't hold me to these, but I'm giving you some ballpark estimates. I'm going to skip over the devolution route. That's a transfer of funds. It's a project that'll be managed by, I believe, the El Paso County or Colorado Springs. I'm not sure who the lead is on that effort right now. State Highway 21, Old Ranch Road interchange. That one should begin construction in fiscal or calendar year 14 as well, probably mid to late in the year. And then the Judge Orr Road, I know it requires quite a bit of design work still, so I'm anticipating that will likely be calendar year 15 for those improvements.
Okay.
So,
thanks. Very good. Thank you.
Generally speaking.
Commissioner Dwalby.
We were just here for the CCI meeting, and so I came early. I came Sunday, and we got to drive around Colorado Springs a lot. And I come down here a lot, but I don't spend a lot of time here. And I've been coming down for about 20 some years. I've been in Alma. So a few years ago, 10, 15 years ago, Colorado Springs and the area, the roads were really crappy. I mean, they were really rough. There was holes in them. There was stuff. It was bad driving in town here and in the area around here. And it has really improved. And I think it's this board has a lot to do with it. And Wayne's worked really hard on his transportation projects and his interest in it. And the county commissioners have worked on it. The city of Colorado Springs has done a great job. And this area's roads and the transportation and the planners. I mean, you guys, I rip on you guys a little bit every once in a while, but great job. Great job. And this town is really, driving around it now is a whole lot better than it used to be. And it's improved significantly in the last 5 years. And I just wanted to say thanks to this board and to all the folks that spend their lives making this a better place. And it's a good job.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I'm sure glad you guys approved that one. We were working hard for you.
If you do what we ask, we will generally approve it. And we thank you for it, by the way. So it should have been move approval with appreciation and gratitude and
Thank you,
lots
Tom.
of thanks.
And the commission.
Area Agency on Aging, 2013-14 federal carryover funding allocations. Guy.
Good morning. I'm Guy Dutra-Silvera, the Director of the Area Agency on Aging here at PPACG. You have before you the RAC's recommendation for the limited carryover funds that we received from the state of Colorado. Well, actually, they're federal funds we received through the state of Colorado. These are funds that were unspent the previous fiscal year, and we get to take them this year and apply them to services throughout the region. Our providers were asked what their needs are in the form of a question that the RAC formulated, being, have you had significant changes in your budget or your operations that would require more funding at this time? And after gathering that information and those requests, the Technical Review Subcommittee met, made a recommendation to the full RAC, and the result is what you see before you in the attachment. Are there any questions?
Questions for Guy?
Can you click on the hyperlink there, just to make sure it shouldn't have been on the table in front of you all, and we emailed it out. Just want to make sure all the board. You see the numbers that Guy was talking about.
Right.
We did.
So it looks something like that.
Do we
Move
have a
approval.
motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Guy knew what was going to happen. He's done this before. Information items. We have some CDOT project briefings. I'll let you guys decide who wants to go first and how you're going to handle that. Okay.
Okay. And I might need help getting a presentation up here. Good morning. My name's Mark Imhoff. I'm the Division Director for Transit and Rail at CDOT. I've been there about 3 years. I came in as the division was created. Kind of while we're getting started here, I would like to say it is really great to see Casper back in his seat. We have missed all of his continuous input over the few months, but we're glad to see him back and hard at it. Also, Commissioner Les Gruen, when we started our effort on Interregional Express Bus, he was on our Transit and Intermodal Committee. He's offered us a lot of support and input over the last year or so as the plan has developed. Also with me today is Mike Timlin. He is our bus operations person, came to CDOT after 34 years at Greyhound. So we actually have some in-house expertise now on how to operate a bus system. And we've been working closely, we've been working closely with Tom Rona and his staff in Region 2 on park and rides and that variety of things. So the purpose for today is to present the Interregional Express Bus Plan to you. As was mentioned, we were before the TAC a few weeks ago, and we're here to present to the board today. And what we're hoping is that we might get an endorsement out of you today for the service plan. We have been working closely with a subcommittee of our Transit and Rail Advisory Committee. Craig Blewett sits on that committee and has really been a tremendous help to us as we put this plan together. The FREX experience and the lessons learned were really invaluable to us and really helped us shape the overall plan. All of the linked transit agencies throughout the corridors were also involved through this subcommittee. I mentioned 3 years ago, but the Division of Transit and Rail came into being after the 2009 legislative session. The legislature created our division and gave us the authority and ability to actually operate and maintain transit services, and gave us a responsibility for the operation of interregional transit. Also in that same year is when the FASTER legislation was passed. You're probably very familiar with the FASTER program through FASTER safety projects and the bridge program, but also $15 million a year are dedicated to statewide transit. Actually, $15 million for transit, $5 million go to local entities, and $10 million a year for statewide transit. So that is where we are, along with our recent authority, where we're getting the funding stream to be able to allow us to provide the interregional express service. Governor Hickenlooper's TBD Colorado efforts of a year and a half ago also came out with a recommendation for increased interregional bus service, and we are in the midst of our first ever state transit plan, and the input that we are getting around the state supports and says there is a need for more interregional service. So the concept, as you're familiar from your FREX experience, but CDOT would become the transit provider, and that is a first for us. It's a little bit of a culture shift, but I believe that we are up for the challenge and ready for that. Help us to fulfill our multimodal mission. CDOT's role, again, is in an interregional kind of capacity, how we connect local population and employment centers and local transit entities like Mountain Metro and RTD in Denver. We're focusing on peak period commuter express service, limited stops, fast service, and we'll be utilizing park and rides for broad local access. We hope to maximize our fare box recovery similar to the FREX experience, and through that successful fare box is how we would plan to expand service if the demand is there. We, over the last year, conducted a number of studies. We did a peer evaluation of similar systems around the country. What we learned is that there typically is a focus on park and rides as a collection point. Commuter services are really the focus. That it is reasonable to expect a high fare box recovery ratio, and that contracting for service similar to what CDOT is proposing is the way to go about those types of operations. This is a quick state map. In red circles are the largest transit agencies around the state, and they will all be connected in some form with the interregional express bus service. Specific to the south area here in Colorado Springs, we are proposing 6 round trips per weekday from Colorado Springs to Denver and then back. They would focus on peak commute times, the park and ride locations. The service would begin at the Tejon Park and Ride, move on to the Woodman Road Park and Ride, then to Monument, and then express to Denver, get off I-25 at the Broadway light rail station for good connections with RTD service, and then into downtown Denver with the final stop at Denver Union Station. And for the Colorado Springs service, we estimate about 370 to 550 passengers per day. There will be similar service to Fort Collins with 5 round trips a day, and introducing service in the I-70 Mountain Corridor with not quite as much focus on commuter, but more on essential service travel, how we get folks to doctor appointments, other business, access to the airport, shopping, things like that. So that'll have 1 round trip a day beginning in Glenwood Springs and making its way through Eagle, Summit County, and the Denver Federal Center and into downtown Denver at Denver Union Station. To do this, we are needing 13 over-the-road coaches, and I see my first typo. We have 6 for the Colorado Springs area, not the north. And this is where some of the lessons learned from the FREX experience have come in. I've already been asked twice this morning about restrooms on buses, and yes, we will have restrooms on buses. I think Craig would say that that is probably a good idea for us. We also will be having Wi-Fi and electrical outlets for laptops, plenty of leg room, nice reclining seats, fold-down trays, trying to make it a very enjoyable experience for the riders. The fare structure, similar to what you experienced with FREX, is based on about 17 cents per mile. That is consistent with the industry and our peer evaluation, and actually with the old FREX experience. That translates into a $12 per ride trip from Colorado Springs and $9 per trip from Monument. Those are for single ride tickets, and we will be offering discounts for multiple ride tickets, 10% for 10 ride, 20% for 20 ride, and 25% for 40 ride tickets. So how do we pay for it? That is the big question that is initially before us. To get us started, we need some capital improvements. We need to buy those 13 buses, and we do have some park and ride improvements that need to be made. Woodman Road is one of those. We've identified not quite $11 million in potential startup funds. It's made up of two allocations. First is old Senate Bill 1 money that was dedicated for transit. FREX got a good portion of that, and as the FREX service came to a close, there were some proceeds from selling of the buses. And then there are other Senate Bill 1 funds that were never allocated. Those Senate Bill 1 funds total $5.4 million. And then on the faster statewide program that I was describing briefly earlier, in old unallocated funds, we have $5.5 million on the books. So that gives us not quite $11 million to get us started. We will purchase the 13 buses, park and ride improvements, go through a branding and PR campaign, and a few other miscellaneous startup costs, and begin, and I'll talk about this in a minute, but to be able to deposit $1.6 million into a cumulative reserve that our Transportation Commission would have the ability to give us some flexibility as if we need to make adjustments to that service. Again, the funding recommendation after we get our initial startup for the annual allocations would be to allocate $3 million per year out of the faster statewide pool of funds. We would cap those funds at $3 million, no increase. Partially that's because the $10 million never increases, so we don't feel that it would be fair to the other needs around the state if we were to allow our funds to escalate. So that causes us to really have tight budgeting and management in place to be able to allow the service with possibly some cost increases to continue without increasing our statewide funding source. Fare box will be the way that we can do that. The fare box will give us other operating and capital funds if there are needs for expansion, and every year, to make it clear, we're buying 13 buses up front, but every year we will deposit, similar to a depreciation fund, but a bus replacement fund, so that over the 12-year expected life, we would be able to replace those buses at the end of their useful life. And then the cumulative reserve that I mentioned earlier, and I'm looking at Commissioner Gruen. This is the first time he's hearing this, so he's what we're proposing to our commission is that we reserve a fund that could grow with any excess funds at the end of every year, that could grow to a maximum of $3 million, which is the equivalent of 1 year of faster funds, and that we hold those into a reserve account that would give us the ability for any capital improvements we might need over time. And if that fund ever grows, and I'll show you in a minute how it might happen, but if it grows above $3 million, then those excess funds would go back into the faster pool for distribution of capital projects to other projects around the state. And also, I always like to mention we are asking for no local match to go along with these services. So I know this is really hard for you to read, and I don't believe we have handouts, or do we have handouts around this? What this shows, though, is a five-year cash flow, starting with the capital investments this year, our fiscal year 2014, and then the first 4 years of operations. Take out the operating expenses, put in the bus replacement reserve, and really what you might be able to see as you come down to the bottom, the cumulative reserve grows, and the last 2 years up here are where we're showing funds that may be available to go back to the faster statewide pool. And it's about possibly $1 million in that final year. Mike's been working hard on a customer service plan. We want to make sure we have courteous and friendly drivers, that the buses are always clean and comfortable, and that we have the passenger amenities that I was mentioning earlier. And there will be a high value put on on-time performance. We're working on trying to understand through our peer agencies how a guaranteed ride program could work. We'll be having a customer call center and developing mobile apps to help with real-time bus locations and arrival times. Also with our communications department, working on a communications plan. I mentioned earlier we will be this winter going through a branding process to come up with a really cool name. Some folks have suggested Freck, so I guess that's on the table, but we'll be working on a brand, and there will be a public education program developed over this winter. We're already starting to think about how we measure our success. Craig Blewett's been helpful in this regard, but we'll be making at least, maybe more than this, but quarterly performance reports on ridership, fare box revenues, and fare box recovery ratios, on-time performance rates, and be able to report any contractor violations that we might have with our private contractor. We will be doing continuous performance monitoring and trying to work into our management scheme the flexibility to maximize performance out of the few routes that we are operating. We'll be looking to our Transportation Commission for oversight. We're suggesting the Transit and Intermodal Committee might serve as the Interregional Express Operating Committee. We have our Transit and Rail Advisory Committee. They will continue and provide input, and we're committing no capital expenditures or service expansion without our Commission's approval. So we are before our Commission again next week with a hour-long workshop to go in a little more depth than I am today on the overall plan, to answer some questions that they have. At this point, if that goes well, we'll be requesting the Commission's approval in January. Public outreach to begin in the spring following the branding and communications plan development. And we'll be working with our local partners also over the spring and summer, places like Mountain Metro, for some joint advertising, possibly ticket sales, and how we might work out maintenance agreements at the park and rides. And we hope to have service available and opening late next year. We have had a lot of input and guidance from our regional stakeholders. It's really been very helpful to us in this new endeavor for CDOT. And with the statewide transit system, the collaboration effort's really important. We need to continue our partnerships with Mountain Metro, other inner-city providers like Greyhound and Black Hills that provide service to Pueblo, to make sure that we have very integrated services and are providing as seamless a travel as we can for the traveling public. And if you have any suggestions for us, I would love to hear that. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Councilmember Pico.
Isn't there already some intercity bus transit available from these different points?
Yes, there is intercity service on both I-25 and I-70. The difference, though, is that those are scheduled around major metropolitan areas. So like going from Dallas to Denver is the controlling factor on the schedule. So our service is complementary to that. For example, we have a recommendation letter from Greyhound supporting our service and how we integrate and work with them to provide more comprehensive service. And their service, kind of by definition, cannot focus on commuter times and commuter movements, and that is what we are trying to serve.
Okay, my concern is that we don't actually compete with private industries, and what you're telling me is that, if I understand that right, you're going to complement but not compete with.
Correct.
Dr. Knoll.
Gee, I finally got a chance to ask a question about that. So I have a few. Number one, is this we'll try it a year and then get rid of if it doesn't work, as has not necessarily by you in the past? Is this a full 3 years you're going to look at it to see if it works, or what's the planned timeline?
I am not presenting any exit strategy. I believe this is part of our transportation system. We are going into this, and really, to answer your question, we are starting pretty small with this effort. So the success that I know you had with Frex, as the success builds, we need to be very cautious how we expand. But, I mean, if nobody rides it, then we probably need to think about some decrease in service. But I believe very strongly that we will have good ridership in all three corridors. We need to have some flexibility around our scheduled times and get some customer surveys going and things. And, we're focusing on the early morning peaks out of Colorado Springs. If we need to shift that schedule a little bit, we also are proposing one midday round trip to try and get that off-peak travel. So some flexibility as those schedules mature, if you will. But my plan is that there is no exit.
I also would ask is the connecting points. In the past, we've tried about year-long experiments. That's why I asked, and they haven't worked. But are we going to connect to places like Arapahoe where people can get on the train when they get off the bus? Have we planned those connections and the expansion of those to the airport?
Yes. The first one on the north end would be at the I-25 and Broadway Park and Ride. That is a pulse point for RTD and their bus system, and also for their light rail lines to the southwest and southeast. And then the final point will be Denver Union Station, which will have a connection with the new east light rail line or commuter rail line to DIA. Before that rail line is open, there also connection with the RTD Skyride service at that location, so people would be able to make a quick transfer to get to DIA.
Is it also true that, I assume it is, that these are not one-way connections? There are round-trip opportunities, land in, go on the bus and come back on the bus?
Yes, yeah. There'll be, every trip is a round trip. The commuter type, the commuter-focused routes will go in the morning up and return in the late afternoon. The midday service will do just that, provide up and then return later to try and give some flexibility around those return times.
The connector with us is one or two places to go north and come back. You're not trying to connect up the city. We'll do that, I assume, some of the other bus lines to to those key points. Do you know where that is, about Woodman, or where would be the first couple of stations?
Both Tejon and Woodman will have Mountain Metro access, and I might, if you'd like more, Craig could probably tell you how those connections.
I would like to hear from him, because I gave him a hard time the last time he was here, and nothing was happening. Now we got a miracle, so we got to hear from him. Thank you.
Sure enough.
Craig, would you like to come on up? You can field questions back and forth.
Sounds good. Craig Blewett again, City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metropolitan Transit. I just want to express our full support at Mountain Metro Transit for the Interregional Express plan and proposal, and really thank CDOT for its work. My staff and I were invited from the get-go, from the very beginning, when this work began, by Mark and Mike and the other CDOT staff, in pursuing the opportunity for an interregional express bus, and really picking up, as Mark said, the experience and the good things that FREX did. This will replace and build on the FREX service that we ran for years, and some of you may not be aware, but CDOT was always a partner on FREX from the very beginning. So it was always a partnership between really this region and CDOT. So it really makes sense in this point from really CDOT to pick it up and go with it. And we're going to support it every way we can, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But as Mark alluded to, FREX was extremely successful when it ran in terms of the ridership, in terms of fare box return, in terms of providing a great transportation option for commuters from El Paso County who had jobs up in Denver, and to bring those incomes back to El Paso County, and a matter of taking cars off the road. And like I said, CDOT is finding some ways in this proposal, working with Mike and others, to improve upon it. The bathrooms in the back of the bus will be terrific. That was a problem. That was a problem in a number of ways that were very practical, but not only for passengers who might be reluctant to have that extra cup of coffee while they're riding up, but also practical consideration for the drivers themselves. And normally, you'd be planning your hour and 15-minute trip, but if there's snow and bad weather, it can become a 2-hour trip, and that lack of a bathroom is really a problem. We are going to support it in a number of ways. One is we're going to continue what we operate, pay for the operations of the park and rides at I-25 in Tejon and Woodman, in terms of utility costs, trash pickups, snow removal, those kinds of things. We're going to continue to do that. We've also committed to donating the fare boxes that we had in the FREX buses. We still have those, and it's going to be helpful to CDOT to get this system underway. And also, as Mark alluded to, and I think the questions that you have, Dr. Null, is we are going to coordinate our operations the best we can as well. I think the pickup points will be I-25 Tejon. We're also looking at the downtown terminal. There's some logistical issues there, as well as the Woodman Park and Ride. So all the 3 stops that are within the city of Colorado Springs will be also connections to our system. So that's all. We've been involved from the very beginning. We think it's a great plan. Richard Marcus from our staff, our planning supervisor, has been working on timetables with Mike to tie in the 2 systems, and it's a great plan going forward. So we support it.
Anything else, Dr. Knoll? This is your moment to shine.
Okay, that's it. That's it. It's all good news. I'm not going too far.
Councilmember Knight.
Yeah, a comment and a question. First, the comment. I don't think we need any connections to DIA because everybody's going to fly COS, right?
I take that back.
It's some more joke.
The question actually is for Craig. At the Woodman Park and Ride, right now that's still being used as overflow parking for Tiffany Square. I know Tiffany Square built that brand new parking lot there, but there's been a chain across that since at least February, when I had to go retrieve one of my campaign signs in there on a snowy day. So and drove by there the other day, and it was still chained across. So is this going to be a cost to us, or are we going to have to work to get that Tiffany Square opened up, or are we going to do a trade, or what are we going to do about the parking right there and making sure?
I know you're asking Craig, but I think I can answer that question. We are aware of the overflow parking there. We have two options at Woodman Road. One is to work with the existing lot and Tiffany Square lot and some arrangement to get a better park and ride for transit and maybe better for them. The second option, if that can't work out, the second option is to put a roundabout in to allow better bus turnaround for the existing lot. We have started dialogue with Region 2, with Tom and his staff, and have made very brief introductory just introductions with the mall folks. We're waiting, once we get approval from our commission, we will move forward on that. First preference, if we can afford it, is to do some kind of a land swap and get a better park and ride there. The second part of your question, we have $1 million in that initial startup budget for park and ride improvements. Way north at Harmony Road and I-25, it is full. We need to do an expansion there. And Woodman Road is the only other real improvement that has to be made to a park and ride. So we think we have ample budget to cover both of those.
Good news. CCI Freshman Commissioner of the Year, Norm Steen.
Thank you. Curious about the demographics. What targeted group of people are you looking to serve the best, and how large is that demographic section?
Okay. For the service from Colorado Springs, we are focusing on commute type travel. So people that are, as Craig was saying, that are living in El Paso County, destined to downtown Denver for employment. Although we are going to, through our marketing campaigns, try and stress what we are terming the essential services need as well. So people that need to get to doctor appointments, other business, if they can't get a flight out of Colorado Springs and need to get to DIA, that variety of thing. I don't know that I can really speak a lot to the demographics, but what I can tell you is the fare that we are charging will be less than any of the inner city service, and it's considerably less than driving. We are going to charge roughly 17 cents a mile or less if you buy discounts. If you drive your car, the IRS now has 54 cents per mile. So there's that differential, plus there's typically parking costs in Denver.
How much does it actually cost to run this bus, though? You're charging them 17 cents a mile. How much does it cost him per passenger per mile for the thing to run?
Do you really want to know?
Can we answer that? All right. $4.15 per mile
is what it costs to run that bus.
Is what we believe that it will
for
cost.
one person to ride in it.
No,
that's for the whole bus.
Whether it's one person or the 40.
Full bus would be 50.
And maybe this will help.
That doesn't answer the question.
In the first year, we are projecting about a 20% fare box recovery that will grow to 40 or 50%. So if that math holds true, if we grow to 50%, then it would cost twice that per passenger to operate the bus.
Twice what the fare is, so
Yeah.
twice 19 cents, so you're talking
34 or 40 cents a mile.
So
With a
50 cents a mile for them to drive their car.
But the bus is full. That's multiple people riding.
Norm, did you get your question answered?
Yeah, I'm just hoping that, in any business model, you would think how big the market is, what share of that market you hope to capture.
Yeah, and we also have, we could provide you with the technical memorandums and stuff on ridership. A lot of it was based on FREX and looking at the demographics, the journey to work data from Colorado Springs to Denver and what percentage Frex was attracting. And as we were saying, it takes a few years for service to mature, so we have assumed that we start with 50% of what we think we can expect to grow over 4 years to about 95% of what the Frex experience was based on those demographics and the journey to work data. Is that helping?
There's a business component here that obviously makes it work for the taxpayer, and that's targeted ridership. You identify who the rider is, how you reach that rider, how you communicate with that rider, how you service that rider. And I'm just wondering if the model, maybe I'm just not hearing it, is how the model is built around our customer or rather on the bus.
You know, I'm not wanting to restart the conversation here because it sounds like you want more depth than we're going to have time to cover. However, Councilmember Pico has done some math, so let's see.
So if I cut the numbers right, your break-even point is 25 riders.
24.11.
That's about right.
That's about right. So, and your bus capacity is
50.
50.
Okay.
So you need a 50% load factor in order to break even.
Good.
Got it.
Commissioner Gruen, and then we'll go to Clerk Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, what a great presentation. Thank you.
Well, thanks.
When Mark came on board to CDOT, he came into a position that was authorized by FASTER, which he indicated in his presentation. And CDOT had some transit people, but no one that really understood it to the degree that I believe that Mark did. Since I've been your commissioner in late 2007, one of the issues that has taken probably more time than any other for the commission has been Frex. And the amount of dollars that were involved relative to our overall budget were pretty insignificant. There were 2 or 3 years where Craig probably wasn't getting much sleep at night over Frex, and it was all based on a request made by the predecessor to Mountain Metro. I don't even remember what it was called, probably Colorado Springs Transit, that requested from the state, from this SB 1, Senate Bill 1 money, the money to acquire 19 buses, which they received, but there was no operating money. So when Mark mentioned that CDOT became a partner, CDOT became somewhat of an unwilling partner in the operation of Frex just to keep it going. And it was a relatively successful operation, even though there was a pretty heavy subsidy. I think Farebox revenue accounted for about 50% of operation, which is really, really high as those things go. But it demonstrated to the commission that there was a demand and probably a need for this thing, even though it required really a significant change in how we operated to become an operator rather than to fund capital improvements. But at least a former commission, because recall that the makeup of the commission is always changing, the former commission was very, very open to exploring what Mark has proposed. And I think the current commission, even though we have some new commissioners, is generally open to what he proposed. But there are some significant questions that remain. One of the key questions relates to what Councilman Pico brought up, is we're not real eager to implement a system that undercuts private sector operators. It just doesn't make sense to us. Another concern that came up is Mark talked about discounts for multiple riders or rides. Some of my colleagues are saying, why in the world would we do that? There's a huge contingency built into this budget that you might have noticed, and some of my colleagues are saying, why are we doing that? So what I want to say is I have tremendous confidence in Mark Imhoff and his team as Director of Division of Transit at CDOT. And I personally believe in the importance of what we're trying to do here. There are still some things we've got to get worked out, but the importance of this front range service is there. And I think, Commissioner Steen, we do have a sense of the demographics. I think it is the more, there's more of a commuter base along the front range, and there's a different demographic along the I-70 corridor. But this will get worked out, and we'll get these questions answered, and I believe we'll have something approved in operation by the end of 2012 or the beginning of 2015 that is generally along the lines of what you saw here. Mark, you've done a great job, and thanks for that great presentation.
Thank you.
I would like to kind of wrap this up. We'll go to Clerk and Recorder Williams, and the initial request, or initial slide, requested some sort of endorsement. Is that what the term we're using?
Let me ask one quick question, then kind of do a general thing. When Frex was operating, some of the passenger volume was also folks coming in from Monument into Colorado Springs as the buses went back and forth. It sounds like from your presentation there's no anticipation that in the morning there will be anything coming from Monument down to the Springs. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood that right.
If we get to a point where we need more round trips, we'll need to bring a bus back to provide that additional round trip. And so we will be flexible on how that all works and how we can accommodate any travelers along the way.
Okay. Let me, if I could, just do a little short background, because there's a lot of folks on this board that weren't here when Frex was established. And so Senate Bill 1, which was the major funding source for capital construction, said 10% of the money had to go to transit. The way that was interpreted is that 10% for transit could only go for capital programs. And so when the Pikes Peak area applied for funding for Senate Bill 1, the concept was that the operation money would have to come from the local entity. At that time, the plan was Mountain Metro Transit or Springs Transit, I forget which it was at the time, would be getting a third of its money from the feds, a third of the money from the city, and a third of the money from the Pikes Peak RTA. And as long as that was the case, the operation of Frex was working. What happened, though, is because of the budget cuts that had to be made and the city's reduction in the amount of transit money that was coming, they could no longer fund that subsidy that takes place in every bus service. And so because of that, the operational money wasn't there. Of all of the bus routes Mountain Metro was operating, it had one of the highest fare box recoveries of any of them. But it simply didn't have the money, and when council was looking at, and I'm summarizing, and to the extent I say something wrong, forgive me, they thought if you're going to have to cut bus service that's outside the region as opposed to cut bus service that's inside the region. And so ultimately, council's will to fund that Frex subsidy went away, and they instead subsidized local routes that actually had a lower recovery, but they served this community. And there was always a discussion of, should some of the money for this operationally come from the state, which is the one benefiting when you reduce congestion through the I-25 corridor in Douglas and Arapahoe and Denver. Faster then gets passed, and Faster provides for $10 million per year for statewide transit. Well, the state has no statewide transit. And so the commission and Mark and his division have been working on, okay, so how do we fulfill this mandate to provide statewide transit? because Frex was a successful system, it's been used as a model. And this time, unlike last time, there is now money for the ongoing operations. And that's the $3 million per year that Mark was talking about. With that $3 million per year, if the ridership is at all similar to what it was with Frex, it works. As Les pointed out, there's various issues that still have to be resolved and tweaks that have to be taken care of. But Frex's problem is it had no operational money to survive. And so they started then scavenging buses to provide money. And this is what Les was talking about in terms of why it consumes so much transportation commission time, is to say, well, if we sell this bus, we can make the service last for this much longer and provide the subsidy for that. And that wasn't an ongoing model. The model that Mark is talking about takes the money and says, look, we're going to take $3 million per year. That's going to fund that operational subsidy that occurs in any transit system. And that makes it so this model works. And so that's kind of a short summary of how Frex came to be, how it died, and then what's different about this that actually provides an ongoing way of addressing this need. And Norm, I don't remember all the demographic data, but it's certainly there. It's actually mostly an upper middle class group that goes to Denver for the higher paying jobs, brings the money back to the Pikes Peak area, and spends it here. So it's a way of getting money from Denver into our community.
It's attached to trailer.
But it's different than so these are choice riders, is what I'm saying. So it's a different demographic model than the usual bus system that are mostly people who can't either afford a car, they lost their license, they had too many DUIs, they have a disability so they can't drive. And that's much of what covers a local transit. This is very much these people could drive there, so you have to get them to choice in. So that's why the amenities that Mark's talking about, the Wi-Fi, the other things, make it so that commuter would elect to use this bus system instead of taking their own car up there.
And was that the wrap-up?
How about free breakfast?
That's the wrap-up.
Free breakfast, too. And how about a massage while they're riding on the bus? These upper-level people that are making lots of money could afford to pay for a car.
I would like to give Dr. Knoll the last word, however.
No, I don't want to say anything else. You already know what I think.
Yeah, I think this is fabulous. I think it's going to exceed expectations, but I think the key is the marketing and the branding. I know you have a big contingency here, but I would suggest that you get a really catchy name with a fuzzy mascot and push the heck out of this thing, because I really think it's the key to building future transit success.
For whatever it's worth, our new communications director, Amy Ford, she did exactly what you said for T-Rex, so she understands transit, so she's going to be a big partner of mine through that branding effort.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Knoll?
I would just suggest that as you proceed, you look at some of the larger companies right on the way up there and down here and put together a senior advisory group that will encourage the ridership when it comes along and not wait until it's failing to do that. They'll understand it, and we probably always wondered how many of those cars coming down and how many going up were actual commuters. Well, there's one way to find out, maybe, but it seems to me we're missing some great supporters of this if we don't organize in both communities high-level executives who think transit is good for their company.
And along those lines, there are transportation management TMAs in all the locations, and they will be part of our outreach and branding efforts.
So knowing what we know now, is this board comfortable? I'm kind of looking for head nods because this is not a binding vote that's going to go in a resolution. If you would like that, we can bring that back at a later time. But knowing what we know now, are we comfortable telling Mark, continue down the path you're headed?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yeah, I say head nod, hand up, whatever.
Bob?
Yeah, the formal action you'll probably have is a tip amendment down the road once they solidify all the money, because all the transportation money ends up in your tip anyway. So that'll be your official action.
That would be the formal, official action.
In a couple months or whenever they get the bugs worked out.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Item number 2 is the I-25 Cimarron Interchange Project update. And while Dave's coming up, thank you. Since we tend to pile on, when CDOT comes up, we deal with all CDOT issues. Great job on the South Academy bridges. I had my doubts we were going to make it with the weather, but Doug had assured me you would, so he made a promise that you kept.
Well, Doug and Tom and I had several discussions about that, and we thank you for the acknowledgement, and we apologize for some inconvenience on Tuesday before Thanksgiving. But we need to get done, and we need some temperatures to do that work.
Right.
But we didn't want the holidays to be experiencing the deck repairs that were ongoing. So. It was Dave Wadden, resident engineer of CDOT Region 2, and this is the I-25 Cimarron Interchange update. We are underway and starting the design build process and procurement.
Signs.
Pardon me?
The signs.
The signs. Lisa Bachman, our public information officer, is going to make sure that we get those signs up there for our park and teller counties. We'll talk about briefly the funding, a brief project overview, a stakeholder process to date, spend a little bit of time on the project goals and our general schedule here. The current funding, this should look fairly familiar to the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board of Directors. It's a $95 million budget that was identified in the application that the region and Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments put together with a tremendous amount of input from your member entities. The local match, the $6 million there. Tom touched base earlier on the evidence of commitment that has gone out. That is the tie back to making sure that we're all still on the same page for what the scope of the project is, what the commitments are, and what the general schedule is going to be. I want to let Rob know that I know he saw several of the letters that went out for the evidence of commitment, and these are all well underway for returning back to our front office by January 6th, Tom. We've received the letters of commitment signed back by El Paso County for both the I-25 Cimarron Interchange as well as the devolution. I never know how we're pronouncing that, devolution or devolution, but the no man's land abandonment is underway. And Colorado Springs is also well underway for returning that back. We do not anticipate a problem there. So the $30 million is acquired. We're beginning to prepare the TIP and the STIP amendments for that. We'll be coming back to you early next year with that in mind. There's currently $12 million that is budgeted. There was $2 million of the $95 million that was to come out of the local STIP. I believe they were identified as Metro funds that were going to be brought forth. So that leaves us with about $51 million that we're looking for to make the $95 million project whole. And we are having those discussions with our financial folks up north, and we'll be reporting back to you as we progress in that regard. The project overview, I hope this jumps out at you in the green, is what we're working towards. It is an I-25 project. The key feature about this project is to get the interchange located in its proper area. It's going to shift about 25 feet to the west. This is what was identified in the 2004 environmental assessment that was adopted by the Federal Highway Administration. The current alignment is based on a 1959 design, and in the past subsequent 50 to 60 years, things have progressed, and we've now identified the proper location for this interchange. You're going to see a lot better curve. You're going to see a lot better vertical alignment, and we're going to greatly improve safety, operations, and keep the 6 lanes that are on I-25, and this is going to function a lot better than it does today. But again, the south limit there, roughly the Bear Creek overpass of the Bear Creek Trail. Cimarron interchange here with a single-point urban interchange similar to Garden of the Gods at I-25, Union Austin Bluffs. Up north, this is the Midland Trail crossing that currently goes under I-25 and into America, the beautiful park. And the northern limit of the project, the Colorado Avenue Bridge. 24 compatibility. I know the folks are aware that we're wrapping up the US 24 environmental assessment. The I-25 work that we're proposing will accommodate the future ramps here. The ultimate configuration with that flyover, that would be the last improvement that would happen with Highway 24. It's in the latter phases of the long-range transportation plan, and it will also accommodate future expansion of Highway 24. But I want to emphasize again, the green is what we're targeting for I-25. The stakeholder process, we have been meeting with affected landowners, businesses, local agencies. I'll focus you briefly over here to the working team stakeholders. I have the advantage that I've read that before. It's a little bit difficult to see from here, but these include members of Colorado Springs Traffic, Colorado Springs Park and Recreation Department, El Paso County, the Downtown Partnership Groups, Mountain Metro, a number of folks that are affected by this interchange. And what we've gone out and done is ask them, what do they see as would be a project success? What do they see as the effects of the project to them? And we're hearing a very consistent message. And that consistent message is, maybe this is a statement of the obvious, this is a needed improvement, and there's a lot of desire to see this improvement come forward, both from the west side communities, Teller County, Park County, Manitou Springs, and Woodland Park, but also the downtown group. We're hearing a consistent message of, first and foremost, get this interchange built in a timely fashion, minimize the inconvenience while you can during the construction. And we're also hearing some terms that came back from Highway 24 environmental assessment of treat this as a gateway entry into the mountains, into downtown Colorado Springs, that this is an important infrastructure component of Colorado Springs, and we need to treat it as such. Working team stakeholders that we've reached out to from the project management team has kind of fed into the executive oversight team, and we have our project goals in the upper left here. They have been blessed by the Executive Oversight Committee, and these are in our priority order. So the project goals of maximize overall safety, capacity, and operation of the interchange, that is the number one goal of the project. And that goes back to the emphasis is to get this interchange built in its proper location, improve the operations of the facility, and it greatly enhance the safety of this interchange. And again, the second goal, and these are in priority order again, but the number two goal is to complete the interchange and have it operational before July 1st, 2017. This was something that the Executive Oversight Committee wanted to see us beat and make sure we're accelerating this ahead of the end of 2017, which is the ramp commitment that's been established for the criteria to be expending those funds. So we're going ahead of that a bit, if you will, with the second goal. And the third goal is to minimize impacts and inconvenience to the community, motorists, businesses, downtown, and the public during construction. And that fourth goal is, again, achieve an aesthetically pleasing design compatible with current and future amenities and enhancements around the interchange. I think folks are aware there's a lot going on around the interchange with the confluence of Fountain and Monument Creeks, America the Beautiful Park, the entryway into downtown Colorado Springs, and the leaping ahead into the mountain communities as well as in the tourist industry. So this is capturing that. We're trying to make sure that we enhance the look and feel of the interchange, and we're capturing that with our fourth goal. These goals are fairly important. They help us communicate in three different ways. One, this steers the project team that's crafting the requirements and the contract documents. It tells them what we're trying to do is most important. And again, that's the key, is to get the interchange built in its proper location. But this helps steer them as what the priorities are of the project. It also helps us as a project team communicate to the design build contractors that will be proposing on this. We've been having conversations with a number of teams that are forming to go after this project. This communicates to them what is most important to us and what we're trying to accomplish, and so it helps us achieve best value by picking the team that helps us best achieve those goals. And the third thing it does is it communicates to the community, the citizens, members of the agencies that are affected, what we're trying to accomplish and how we're doing that. So it's a very important project management tool to get these goals established in their prioritized order and make sure we communicate those effectively. This is a general schedule. Again, we are underway as of 2013 this fall. We will be issuing a letter of interest in early January that will define the range of the budget that we're putting forth. It will define what those project goals are. There's some more detail to all 4 of those project goals. That will be coming out with that January 6th letter of interest release. And you see, basically over the 2014, we are crafting the design build documents and selecting a contractor by the end of 2014. And that construction completion by the end of 2017, that's again consistent with the ramp criteria. And we are also looking at accelerating that ahead of that time frame so that we can have this operational by July 1st. The Executive Oversight Committee has blessed those 4 project goals, and with the detailed information going with them, we have kicked off with the technical teams meeting with maintenance of traffic, landscaping and aesthetic treatments and things like that, and we are now crafting the project technical details. And questions with that? I feel like I was rattling off the information, but
this was not new to most of us, just some of your timelines. So, Commissioner Steen?
Really excited to see this get underway. I mean, really, really excited for Taylor County, and even though I'm not expecting a sign, but
We're watching that, Doug.
Stakeholder meetings, they open to our attendance, they open to the public, and probably non-participatory, but how do you see those things as being
Our
open to
first
public?
working team stakeholder, we'll be doing the invites to, if you're able to capture that, I can show you who those were, but we have quite a wide cross-section. I think we could have a seat for Teller County as a working team stakeholder. We're looking at that to be the latter part of January for the first working team stakeholders.
Awesome, good. Thank you.
And we also can envision this board, this won't be the last informational update that we provide. We want to make sure that we talk to the western communities, to Manitou Springs, and make sure that we're keeping folks up to speed as how we're progressing through this.
Okay. Mayor Snyder?
So are you designing with improvements to 8th Street and future improvements in mind?
Yes, we are.
You are, great.
Looking at that, making sure that we can accommodate the 24 expansion.
Great. Thank you.
Let's go to our new member, Mr.
Buck
Bond.
Chisholm. You mentioned you were looking for, I think it was about another $51 million to make the project. Well, this timeline, is there any concern at CDOT that, is that just an administrative budget action, or is there some concern that those $51 million won't come in time to make this timeline?
We'll find the money.
Mark?
I think this, one of the great things about being on this board is to look at the region rather than just your own little corner of the world. And this is a great regional project, and it got great support from everybody in the room. It's a project in Colorado Springs, but it benefits the entire region, and that's something to think about. And the way you're presenting it, I really liked your presentation. You did it. It showed the thought behind why this is happening, and I think that's really important. And this is a great project, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's worthy of a sign.
I'll help with the design of it.
Dave, back to my earlier, once we have CDOT at the mic, we tend to clean up other questions we have. What's happening on our motel that is now a see-through motel?
We have a contractor selected, and I see Kenny Jordan came in. He's going to ask me as well. We should be starting the demolition on that any day.
Okay.
I thought we would have that on board, but we have selected a contractor to do the demolition. The abatement is complete. It is a see-through structure, as you pointed out, and the demolition should take a matter of a few weeks. It shouldn't be a long process, but we have a contractor on board, and that will be coming down soon.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that, and look forward to future.
We'll be back.
Area Agency on Aging Program. Guy.
Hello again. Let's see if I can find the correct icon here. Okay. When I first became the director of the Area Agency on Aging about, 5.5 years ago, one of the first things I did was present to the board about what the Area Agency on Aging does and who we are. So we've had significant turnover on the board since then, and the thought came, maybe we should do this again. Being a lazy person, what I did is I looked up the last presentation and I tweaked it. And then I asked myself, is that really true? Has nothing changed in the last 5 years? And I found out, yes, a lot has changed, that what really has changed is our outlook. So this presentation is really in two parts. One tells you about who we are, who we have been, and then the second part tells you about how our environment has changed and who we are being asked to become. This first slide actually was from Elizabeth Gardner's presentation to the PPACG board. Shows you the increasing population of those, in this case, over the age of 65. The Area Agency on Aging serves those over the age of 60, but this gives you an idea of what we face. So as you listen to this presentation, please keep this in mind, that this is happening in the context of rapidly increasing, and aging society. So what is an Area Agency on Aging? They were started in 1965, and they keep seniors living independently in their own homes. They provide social services and nutrition services for elders, support and their caregivers, and they're served by every part of the United States has a AAA. If you have a relative living in a different part of the country and you need to know what the AAA is, call us. We'll connect you with that AAA. Most elders want to stay in their home. It increases their quality of life and reduces public costs. And that last point, the idea that it reduces public costs, is a large part of why the AAAs are being asked to change. And I'll be getting more into that later. So in Colorado, there's 3 different kinds of homes for AAAs. One is in departments of human services. Another one is in councils of governments. And lastly, many of them are also in private nonprofit organizations. You can see some of the advantages and disadvantages of each type of situation for an Area Agency on Aging. Now, the way it has been and the way it is today, the money we get is distributed according to a funding formula. So the state of Colorado gets money from the federal government through the Older Americans Act and also contributes through the Older Coloradoans Act, and that money is distributed to the area agencies on aging according to this funding formula. So if you look at what percentage of those over the age of 60 are in your region, 40% of the money is distributed that way. If you look at what percentage of those over the age of 60 who live in rural areas live in your region, you get 15% of that money, and on down. Are there any questions about the funding formula? Is this? Okay. So, one of the things that Colorado put in its state plan was to review this formula, and we went through a lot of sessions and revisited this, and it was recently reaffirmed that this is a good formula for us to go with. The idea of having emphasis on rural populations, minority populations, low-income populations, and the population of those age 75 and older is tied into the regulations of the Older Americans Act. So here in Region 4, and by the way, it's a different area than the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We cover the 3 counties, Park, Teller, and El Paso, not necessarily in that order, or in any order. We get about 11% of those funds, just as a rule of thumb. It changes a little bit every year, depending on how the demographics shift. So we got about $3.1 million last year. So what we try to do is create a coordinated system of services for elders. Personal care, homemaker services, those happen in the person's home. Chore services at the person's home. We do home-delivered meals. We're very unusual, AAA, in that we don't provide Meals on Wheels. Most AAAs provide Meals on Wheels with their funding. In our situation, we have wonderful organization in Silver Key Senior Services that does that without our funding. One of the reasons they do that without our funding is because the regulations are so onerous to provide those meals that they can actually do it cheaper without our funds. But in the rural areas, we do provide shelf-stable or frozen meals to folks who are homebound or just have trouble getting out. We do case management, nutrition counseling, which I had a presentation yesterday, and the importance of nutrition counseling has really come up in my estimation. Transportation, we have 5 transportation providers. Legal assistance, we're required to spend 3% of our federal money on legal assistance. So going on down, you can see the kinds of things we do. The respite program I'll highlight because that is respite for caregivers, not for those over the age of 60. And here's a complete list of the services we provide for caregivers. Caregivers are really kind of a unrecognized linchpin in our society. If the public had to take care of everybody's grandmother, the expense would be tremendous. The expense to the caregiver is also tremendous. It is estimated that most caregivers spend or lose about $750,000 over their lifetime in lost wages and spending money on care. So those people who are caring for their loved ones or their neighbors really can use a little help, and we try to provide that here at the Area Agency on Aging. So the Older Americans Act has some requirements. First of all, we can't just do anything we want. We have a menu of services that can be provided along with their definitions. We're required to spend 25% of our B dollars on access, meaning transportation and information and assistance. For in-home services, we're required to spend 15% of our federal money. Legal assistance, 3%. And Part D, we get a small portion of money for Part D, and we're required to spend that on health promotion and evidence-based programs. Evidence-based programs are programs that have an academic base behind them that shows that they actually are effective and promote the health of participants. And then lastly, Part E monies are spent on caregiver services, as we've talked about before. The rest of the expenditures are discretionary as long as they're within that menu. So we're required to have a regional advisory council. That is supposed to be made up mainly of people over 60. It keeps them connected to the services we provide. We have 20 in our RAC, and more than half of them are over the age of 60. We also have connections with the Department of Human Services, with Independent Living Center, and other agencies that run similar or connected services to ours. Our Regional Advisory Council, as they did this morning, advises the PPACG board and our staff on matters regarding the development of our system of coordinated services. So financially, we can't charge, and our providers can't charge folks for services. On the other hand, they must encourage contributions. They don't have an option on that. They have to encourage contributions. And they can't means test, so they can't provide services only to those who are in financial need. On the other hand, they have to target seniors or give preference and priority to seniors who are low income, minority, live in a rural area, are disabled, or socially isolated. So not only does money come from the state and the federal government, but our communities invest. You can see here that about 26% of the money that goes to run our programs in the 3-county area comes from what we call local cash. It could be Silver Keys Foundation. It could be the United Way. Actually, some of your membership dues are occasionally used as local cash. Seniors contribute. They provide about 4.5% of it. And a large portion comes from in-kind, which for all practical purposes purposes means volunteers. So one of the things we've been asked to do more recently is to be an aging and disability resource center. So at the federal level, the Administration on Aging is now part of the Administration on Community Living, which includes service for those who are disabled, not just those who are over the age of 60. The Aging and Disability Resource Center is a collaborative, no wrong door model meant to simplify and increase the accuracy of access to services for those populations. The evidence-based programs, the requirement to fund those came about just a year ago. And one of the things we're doing here locally is our caregiver coaching program, which is being run through pilot sites and it will be an entirely volunteer program, just supported through the Area Agency on Aging. Before I start talking about what's changing, are there any questions? That's basically where we are today.
Could you talk about elder abuse? I know that's a trend I think that's occurring statewide, and how AAA interfaces with CDHS on elder abuse protection.
Our biggest interface with the elder abuse issue is through our ombudsman program. Our ombudsmen are advocates for residents of nursing homes and assisted living facilities, both in the community and at those individual facilities. But they also get a small portion of money to be involved in elder abuse. There is a local coalition, Silver Key, the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department are all part of that, and it's an increasing issue. What we saw with the economic downturn was a huge increase in financial exploitation. So I think there's more and more awareness. We have had in the past a challenge getting district attorneys and others to recognize elder abuse. It's been for a long time. If you're over 60, you're considered vulnerable, and a felony against a vulnerable person is supposed to carry heavier penalties, but oftentimes they're seen as family issues, or law enforcement and the district attorney's office has had trouble actually pursuing some of these cases. But that is changing, and it's very encouraging. Also this year there's a new mandatory reporting law which is going to affect reporting for those victims who are over the age of 70.
Thank you.
Well, the AAAs are changing. What I've told you, what I've outlined for you is kind of what we have been. We've been a monopoly. We're the only AAA in the three-county region. We receive the money by a funding formula. We haven't had to compete for it. We've had strong partners at the state and national level who are now expecting us to do more than we have done in the past. NASUAD, which is the National Association of State Units on Aging and Disabilities, by way of another sign that we're being asked to tie in with the disabled community, is that they changed their name about 2 years ago. At their conference, we got messages like this. They, meaning the area agencies on aging, must reassess their business staffing and what their costs are. They will have to compete for a share of the long-term services and support business. Not all AAAs will be able to compete, the AAAs and Area Agency on Aging. Expect unprecedented numbers of agency failures, closures, mergers, and consolidations. Obviously, this could affect PPACG. So, amongst things that could happen is the number of AAAs in Colorado and the areas they cover could change. There are states that have as few as 3 AAAs. There's even one, Wyoming, that doesn't have any area agencies on aging. They're just served by a state unit on aging that is the area agency on aging for the whole state. Not only may the AAAs be consolidated, but their functions may be consolidated. How many of you know what a single entry point is? Okay. A single entry point is a organization that does the functional assessment for people who apply for services under Medicaid. Community center boards are another kind of organization we may be asked to consolidate with. They serve the developmentally disabled community. Independent centers serve adults with disabilities of any age. Departments of Human or Social Services, of course, every county has one of those. And then there's this new kid on the block called the Regional Care Collaborative Organization, and I'll get to them a little bit later, but let's just say that they're helping with Medicare and Medicaid, and they're medically based for now. Also, services for different populations has already started to be consolidated. I already mentioned that at the federal level, we now have the administration for community living. Governor Hickenlooper, about a year and a half ago, started the Office of Community Living and appointed a group to advise it on long-term care services and supports called the Community Living Advisory Group, of which I have the pleasure of serving. So we can expect integration. Integration with health and medical services, whether we're being asked to help with hospital transitions, interface with clinics, long-term care facilities. We already have a presence there, but the transitions between these kinds of organizations are something that AAAs are being asked to look at and assist with. Social supports, traditionally the medical model and the human services model have remained fairly separate. So Meals on Wheels hasn't really been considered a medical support. But as we go forward and we look at the increasing costs of Medicare and Medicaid, it becomes more and more important that we avoid those costs. You may remember a 2011 study done by the University of Denver on the Colorado State budget that showed that by 2025, that the whole budget of the state of Colorado would be used on Medicaid, corrections, and education if there were no course changes made. Medicaid was projected to increase between 2011 and 2025 184%. The largest component of the Medicaid budget is folks who are living in assisted living, nursing homes, and receiving care in the home who are over the age of 60. So this is all tied together. As a result, if someone gets out of the hospital, they have a discharge plan, they may be discharged at home. What the hospital doesn't check is to see, well, can someone get them their medications? Do they have a ride home? Do they have a ride to the next doctor's appointment? Will they be able to feed themselves at home? My 95-year-old father was recently discharged from Memorial Hospital, and he was put, from their point of view, in the care of my 93-year-old mother who is on hospice. So to make sure that the consumer is able to follow up on their care plan, is a place that the AAAs can help to see if they can get a meal in their home, either temporarily or long-term, is a place where the AAAs can help to make sure they have connections to the services and supports that are available, is a place the AAAs can help. I already mentioned the regional care collaborative organizations. Here you see a description of their role. In our area, the Regional Care Collaborative Organization, or as we call them, RICOs, not the cousin of Guido, but is the Community Health Partnership. We have a unique model in our RICO in the state because it's a collaborative of our hospitals, clinics, and healthcare providers that are providing this function to coordinate the care of Medicaid and Medicare clients, and especially what we call the dual eligibles, folks who are eligible for both programs. we are expecting that our relationship with the RICO will grow, and we will be asked to work with them in a more direct way. The relationship between the ADRC, which I mentioned earlier, and the RICO is particularly important, and we will be developing that, I think, over the next year significantly. So in order to survive in our changing environment, we need to quit assuming we're always going to be getting funds like we have, and we can just keep on doing what we did last year. We have to recognize that there's no such thing as loyalty in our current operating environment. 2 of the ADRCs in the state were just given to agencies that are not area agencies on aging. We have been told, even though the area agencies on aging have done the ADRC for about 7 years now, that, well, it doesn't necessarily always have to be there. And we've put significant time and resources into them. So we're going to have a lot of new partners. A lot of them are going to be in the healthcare industry. We have to learn their language, we have to learn their culture, and we have to gain their respect. We have to start looking at ourselves more as a business. We're going to be involved in cost control and cost reduction, more and more involved in transitions from nursing homes to hospitals to home, any transition you can think of, in Medicaid managed care. And we will focus on integrating health care with community-based long-term care. But we won't be the only ones. We face fierce competition. There are a lot of other agencies, the single entry points, the community center boards, the independent living centers, and then also people that are traditionally not in our sector, like health and maintenance organizations, who are all looking at how they get involved. So we need to position ourselves. It's difficult to know what the right opportunities are. I could have given you this presentation 3 years ago. I wasn't sure that at that time that the messages were as real as I'm sure they are today. But we need to develop expertise. We need to develop business acumen and make sure that we can compete. Strategic business planning would be a good idea. We have to look at our structure. One of the things that I think is maybe a disadvantage of being in a council of governments is that we don't have the most flexible structure in the world. You all pay your membership dues on an annual basis, and of course there could be a special assessment, but we can't act typically in a 2 or 3 month time frame. Things take time here, and we're going to be asked to change more and more quickly and have more and more flexibility. So that was, Jaws. Well, what can I say? I'm actually not sure which one we are in that picture. Some of the other organizations think we're in the back, and I kind of feel like we're in the front. So in conclusion, it's important to keep the right perspective and know that things will change going forward. Any questions for me? Sir?
Colorado Springs has the second largest retirement, DOD retirement, military retirement community next to San Antonio. And with that, we've got some very active retiree activity committees on the different bases. I know Peterson is very active. Have you had an opportunity to interact with any of those folks, and would you like to get a point of contact?
I would love to have points of contact. Yes. We do have veterans representatives on our Regional Advisory Council, but actually this is the first I've heard of those, so I would greatly appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Guy. That was a very enlightening presentation. I can't speak for everybody else, but every year when you come in and update us, I pay a little more attention because I think I'm, getting closer and closer to being a client as opposed to a board member. Thank Thank you. And I did want to make an apology on behalf of Commissioner Heisey. He had to go and get ready for his State of the County speech, so we'll be finishing. Any other questions for Guy? Anybody have anything, comments? Thanks again. Okay, well, that can move us on then to item 7D, presenting candidates for the 2014 PPACG Board Officers. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Let's go ahead and call 7C then, the stack agenda discussion. There it is.
You've got the stack agenda, and we're behind you. You see that we are actually spending a fair amount of time on the interregional bus program. And then the other parts that affect some formula dollars, you'll see after the break, dealing with, as we plan for the long-range plan, yeah, I know that sounds silly, we are looking at how different formulas are allocated. And one of the big issues with respect to CMAQ funds is discuss the ways that those may be allocated. Our area is in compliance, but we are close to the edge, and there is some discussion as to what the impact of that should be in terms of allocating funds. And then the other part of that is a governor's program plan for alternative fuel stations throughout the state, because if you can only go so far before you can't refuel, it limits the utility of the alternative fuel. And so trying to work a coordinated plan with those stations throughout the I-70, I-25 corridors and provide some subsidies for that. And so that's kind of the big issues of controversy that'll be there. Norm, I don't know if you had other things to add. Norma's.
Thank you. Any questions for Wayne or Norm? Now we can move on then to item C, D, presenting candidates for the 2014 PPACG Board Officers. Do we have a spokesperson for our nominating committee?
Sure. Not officially.
Not officially?
Oh.
They're here.
We think our proposal is that the officers currently serving continue to serve, with the exception of Commissioner Clark, who is stepping down and is being recommended for replacement by Mr. Steen. And that is our proposal. And there were 5 people who wanted to serve, and we thought that the 4 who were in their current roles had done a good job, and typically chairs have stayed there for 2 years, and that causes everything to rotate. And so our recommendation to the body as a whole is to continue them for an additional year, and then to make significant changes a year from now. Yeah, they've only been in for 1 year.
Well, thank you to you 4 for doing this arduous work and coming up with a slate for us. It seemed to me it would be appropriate at this time if there were any other nominations or other slates or anybody else desiring perhaps to be considered for an executive committee position. Is anybody so desirous? No? Well, then...
Action in January.
Action in January. So that was just a report. And again, thanks to all of you on the nominating committee for doing that for us. And then item 7E is the stack representative selection process. Rob, are you going to lead us off here?
Sure. Every year we kind of prep the board for the annual meeting. You just talked about the board officers, but we also name the stack representatives and alternates. And you can just see who your current representation is from Wayne on down. And at our annual meeting, January 8th, you'll either reaffirm that or change it, or however the board wants to go. But that's just this is just a heads up for you all to start thinking about that, and anyone else that may want to get on the list. There's 5 of us now, and I think we have pretty good coverage at the stack meetings. Usually 2 or 3 of us are there once a month.
Norm has been there quite frequently over the last few months and has played a really active role there. And Craig, of course, is always the backup from the professional staff, and Rob is often there as well. So it's a team that is figuring out what they're doing, and I think has been fairly successful the last year in getting some significant allocations for the Pikes Peak area.
Well, thank you. I think personally, I think it's important that our representatives be folks who regularly attend these meetings and be able to really work collaboratively and be a source of information, conduit of information both directions there. So Rob, what's our next step here then?
January at your annual meeting, you'll reaffirm the list or modify the list or however the board would like to go.
So we'll just be having then a discussion followed by an action?
Correct.
As opposed to maybe giving some direction at this meeting?
How the board wants to proceed. Typically, it's at the annual meeting, and again, if any other candidates want to be considered, they can throw their names in now or in January.
And they would do that by maybe contacting you then?
Email or announcements.
So if anybody's interested in getting into the queue here on representation on our stack, please contact Rob, and he'll have your name for consideration at our next meeting, which I believe is January 8th.
Correct.
Great. Are there any member entity announcements? Any announcements at all, please, sir?
I'm not sure what this means, but it seems like a good time to say a thanks to the board for inviting the installation commanders on the Front Range to attend this. It means a lot to us. Just want to make sure everyone knows that through this past summer, we've had a change of command at each of the installations from the Academy, both at the Soup level and the 10th Air Base Wing, at Peterson at the 21st Space Wing, out at Schriever at the 50th Space Wing, and even down at Fort Carson. And the great thing is, and I've seen this firsthand since I've been with the 21st, is a lot of these folks are already friends from the past. So there's a lot of great, strong working relationships already in place. And for the folks who come from the military, you know that once you're part of that family, it just continues to grow. But I will tell you, there's a lot of great energy and a great deal of appreciation from us to the board to allow us to participate. As non-voting members, something tells me we probably won't feel like there's much of a difference. And from a guy who's local, I've been here since '95, senior reserve advisor to the 21st Space Wing commander. It's nice to be able to participate, in my own city's leadership forums. So I have a personal vested interest. But John Shaw, who's our wing commander, he's been stationed here multiple times. A lot of these folks feel like Colorado Springs is home. So I think it's fair to say, from General Johnson up to the Academy, Colonel LaCory at the 50th, Colonel Shaw at the 21st, and the leadership down at Fort Carson. They all really appreciate it. Hopefully you won't see too many revolving faces, crazy schedules like yourself, but hopefully there will be some consistency. And we just want to say thanks. We really look forward to working with you, and we feel like we're valued teammates, and we hope we bring something to this team too. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thank you for being here, and we're all in this together, so we're really happy to have your presence here. Please.
I'll just follow up. I really appreciate the partnership with the military organization. I think all of us have not just a professional connection, but also a personal connection. Many people around this table have served in uniform, and we really value the partnership with each of the military installations here. So we really look forward to your close participation. And I would encourage you not just contact during meetings, but between meetings. Take the contact list. I would look forward to working on a more regular basis than just once a month.
And I think you're going to find, I know Colonel Shaw's done it, and I think the other installation commanders are going to do it, where they're going to have open house forums or to invite you out to the base to show you what our mission set is. Just as an example, the 21st Space Wing, I mean, our footprint literally is around the world. Out from the Aleutians, go around the long way, and you meet again. And we'd like you to know about that, just to know and to realize we're not just here, we're everywhere, but this being the heartbeat of our wing, we're really glad to be a part of this community. We recognize we've got brothers, sisters in arms who have worn the uniform proudly, and we look forward to continuing those relationships.
That's wonderful. I look forward to something like that. Most of my viewing of military installations has been from the golf course. So,
Obviously, going into Air Force Base.
That's right. We'll save our pitch for the golf course next meeting.
Great. Thank you. Any other member entity announcements, please, Tom?
Thank you. For those of you that haven't heard, CDOT's chief engineer, Tim Harris, has recently reported that he's he's going to retire from his position after 33 and a half years with the organization, a very dedicated career employee, and I just wanted to convey that message to this group since he preceded me
Yes.
as the Region Transportation Director and was a very good friend to the Pikes Peak area and all of Region 2 when he was the director here for 5 years, and has continued in his capacity now as the Chief Engineer. He's always been a friend to this area, and he's been instrumental in helping to get some of the funding that we've been successful in securing over the last 3 years since I've been in this role as Region Director. So he'll be greatly missed. And for those of you that have worked with Tim, he's a great guy. We'll miss him dearly. And feel free to send him an email, drop him a note here before the end of the month, and encourage him and his future endeavors.
Well, that's great. Thank you for that. He was a great director of Region 2 and a great friend to this board. And it was always fun because it was easy to make him squirm when we had to put him in the hot seat. You're too cool, Tom. We'll get a rise out of you.
You can tell by the color of his face, when you got him a little upset or
Please.
Going.
Just to follow up on that, Rob, I don't know what we've done in the past, but given his long service and key role in a number of the projects that were done, a resolution of appreciation might be appropriate at our January meeting for Tim.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Wayne. Please.
I'd like to say to Tom and to CDOT in general, what a great job you guys have done with this flood thing, and I know all your resources kind of went to it for a while, and it's amazing that you got the roads back open, and what a great job. And I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. A lot of folks have been working very hard with that effort, and we'll continue on into this next year with the permanent repairs. But all the roads are open. That's a good thing.
Phenomenal.
Sorry. And to piggyback on that, thanks for not forgetting about us down here, because I know there's an awful lot of need and a lot of devastation up north. But I really felt like you guys have always kept us in the loop and on your radar, and that's very much appreciated. Please.
Yeah, and I'd just like to wish everyone a really nice Christmas, great holidays. Other things that go on, we'll see what happens tomorrow, but Mayor Snyder and Mayor Easton and myself and Mayor Bach are having a little work session up in Woodland Park tomorrow and going through a few things, and hopefully no big issues, but I'm sure we'll discuss a few things. And
We should get together for a couple of beers over lunch.
Oh, that sounds...
Yeah, you probably thought the mayor of Woodland Park was buying.
You're not?
At the Swiss Chalet?
At the Swiss Chalet.
All right.
Being a mayor is about the best job you can ever have, so really enjoy this.
I'd love to take that up with you sometime.
You'll look back on it.
Especially when you have a really good city manager.
Yeah.
That just, really makes a difference.
So are there any other member entity announcements or comments? If not, then we are adjourned. Thank you.
The city manager got enough money for a city manager? Right. That's what I saw. Yeah, right. Mayor.